Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Football Plug as we take a look around the NFL in week numero 5. Place I want to start, and my biggest surprise had to be the Raiders beating the Chiefs. They allowed Derek Carr to look like Patrick Mahomes, and Derek Carr usually throwing the ball about 3 yards down the field. He was throwing some bombs to Henry Ruggs and Nelson Aguilar, making those guys look like all-pro receivers. I'd like to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire definitely get some more touches, especially on the ground, looking to set up the pass game more. Because, if they can make people respect the run, then they have to put guys in the box, and that'll open up, their threats on the outside like Hill and Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins. So ultimately, I think they'll be just fine, though. Going back almost a week now, we have the Bears, who were able to beat the Bucks with basically only one player on their offense, and Allen Robinson. The Bears' defense, even without some of their best players, are making themselves look like a playoff contender. Switching over to the NFC East now, we have the Eagles, whose offense started to get going, started to look like an actual offense against a really good Pittsburgh Steelers team. Transitioning to the really sad part of the week has to be the injury to Dak Prescott. And with that injury and the Eagles' performance, I think the Eagles will be able to challenge the Cowboys for that position. I don't see the Cowboys by any means running away with it, but don't sleep on Andy Dalton. He's been able to take the Bengals to the playoffs many, many times. And with that weaponry they have on offense, the biggest problem isn't going to be Andy Dalton for the Cowboys. It's definitely going to be their defense. Now, what is going on with the San Francisco 49ers? All that money they gave Jimmy G, and that performance was atrocious. They've been really affected by injuries. We all know that. But, for him to come back and put up a performance like that after seeing guys like C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins do much, much better. But I definitely need to give some credit to the Miami Dolphins, who are really starting to put together some really good performances with Brian Flores, who's leading that team, developing that buzzword culture, it seems. They've got some good signings in the defensive backfield in the offseason, and they're really starting to build some excitement for when Tua does eventually take over, that they could really do something in this division maybe going forward in a few years. Now on to the AFC North. The Browns over the Colts. That game was much more higher scoring than I expected. As long as Baker Mayfield doesn't continue to turn the ball over and lose them the game, they should be right there with the Steelers and the Ravens. Maybe not as good as those two teams, but definitely competing for a playoff spot. I'm really looking forward to those games, those matchups in division later in the season. I really want to see what those if the Browns can get some wins over those teams and maybe really solidify themselves as a playoff threat. In the AFC South, the Titans just last night put on a great performance, even with COVID concerns all over their team, not being able to practice and everything they did. They took on one of the hottest teams in the Bills, who everyone was loving, Josh Allen. When you let the Titans play from ahead and they got that first turnover that they got on that opening drive, it's going to be hard to beat that kind of team. You saw that with, how they took down the Ravens last year in the playoffs. That opening interception was just huge, and the Bills weren't able to get back into it. The Titans defense, though, is not good. So if they can't score first and they have to play from behind, I don't think they'll be able to contend with teams like the Chiefs, like we saw last year. Lastly, we had the Saints just squeaking by the Chargers, which is Justin Herbert looks great, but if you're a Saints fan, you're really concerned with how that team is performing right now, and without Michael Thomas, they're really starting to struggle. And just a last few quick fire things. Joe Burrow coming back down there at the Texans, getting their first win with a great performance from Brandon Cooks, who was nowhere to be found in the first 4 games. And I know I said that the NFC East was the dumpster fire in the NFL, but we all know now that it's actually the New York Jets. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next episode.